Deputy Noel Grealish, please.
Taoiseach. We have a ridiculous situation in many parts of the country today where someone caught in the act of dumping illegally on CCTV cameras cannot be brought to court on the basis of that evidence. Illegal dumping has just got completely out of control all over the country in the past few years, and it's going to get a lot worse unless drastic action is taken urgently. I sent pictures to your office on Monday, Taoiseach, to show you what is happening in just one case in the outskirts of Galway City. I could send you hundreds of cases that could all members of this House. They come late at night and just dump the rubbish on the side of the road or in a farmer's field. We're talking here about van loads of rubbish, not just a few bags, and it's left up to the farmers and the local communities and the local council to clean up the mess at huge cost to all. They keep coming back and keep dumping because they are getting away with it, and they know that they will not be caught because the Gardaí and the local authorities don't have the resources to try and catch them. Taoiseach, this illegal dumping is destroying our countryside, our towns and villages, and most importantly, our environment. I have seen rubbish, including empty paint cans and dead animals, in streams and rivers that feed into the lakes that supply our drinking water. But the craziest thing that's happening in the middle of all this is that councils are being prevented from using CCTV footage to prosecute people carrying out this dumping because of a ridiculous ruling by the Data Protection Commissioner. Galway County Council is one of the councils who were specifically ordered not to use those images by the Data Protection Commissioner following an audit. To add to the craziness, many other local authorities around the country continue to use CCTV footage as evidence in court cases because they haven't received a similar order as of yet. Taoiseach, I have always said we should hit illegal dumpers where it hurts, and it must hurt them hard. A specialist task force must be set up to deal with this epidemic, and they must have power. When I last raised this issue with you in July, you promised to talk to the minister responsible about putting together such a task force. If a vehicle or a van loaded with rubbish is stopped and the person driving it has no waste permit to dispose of it, or if they are observed illegally dumping, the Gardaí and the council must have the power to seize the vehicle, and a substantial fine in excess of €5,000 must be paid before the vehicle is returned. Taoiseach, my specific questions to you on the issues of tackling illegal dumping are: will you deal with the crazy issue with the Data Protection Commissioner and the non-use of CCTV? Will you set up a task force to deal with illegal dumping involving the Gardaí, local authorities and all stakeholders before our countryside towns and villages are completely destroyed? And Taoiseach, will you bring in solid legislation to give power and funding to local authorities and the Gardaí to seize the vehicles of people involved in illegal dumping, and that the culprits must pay a fine in excess of €5,000 to get the seized vehicle back?
Thank you, Deputy Grealish. Taoiseach.
I want to thank the Deputy very much indeed for raising this issue. And indeed, I have the photographs here that you sent on during the week, which are quite shocking in terms of the appalling levels of dumping that clearly people are engaging in. And illegal dumping is an attack on our society, on our community, on our pristine landscape, and it should be zero tolerance for that type of behaviour. And the fines are quite significant in relation to those who are found to be responsible for the unauthorised disposal of waste, to a maximum fine of €5,000 on summary conviction, or imprisonment up to 12 months, and to a maximum fine of 15 million in the Circuit Court on conviction on indictment, and imprisonment up to 10 years for obviously more serious breaches. But you raised the issue of the use of CCTV data, and the Data Protection Commissioner, as you know, provides guidance concerning statutory obligations placed on those who use CCTV systems to collect personal data, and the rights of and redress mechanisms available to individuals whose personal data are collected by such means. My understanding is the Data Protection Commissioner has written to the Minister for Environment, Climate and Communications concerning data protection issues with the use of CCTV cameras for litter and waste enforcement purposes. Apparently, it's the view of the Data Protection Commission that although the Litter Pollution Act and the Waste Management Act provide councils with powers to prevent, investigate, detect and prosecute littering and dumping offences. The Acts do not provide for processing of images of members of the public using CCTV footage. Now, this advice is currently being considered by Minister Ryan and his department and is subject to legal consideration and advice. In my view, privacy rights in terms of application to dump, people who are dumping illegally shouldn't apply. And if legislation is required to correct this, then it will be brought about urgently. I've contacted the Minister and spoke to the Minister this morning. I understand the need for privacy, proper rights to be protected. On the other hand, we can overdo this too, in terms of, I think CCTV should be used to catch illegal dumpers and to prosecute them. And there should be no issue around that. In my view, most people applying a bit of common sense would say that's obvious, that obviously should happen. And because we all know the wanton dumping that's going on, it's shocking. And it needs to be stamped out. And I think CCTV evidence should be available to be used in evidence against people who are doing this on a consistent basis, as you have said. Now, if legislation has to be brought in, it should be brought in very urgently. I know the Minister's Department is looking at this from a legal, getting their legal advice in relation to it, but it's unsatisfactory that such a situation arises and essentially councils are hamstrung and not in a position to pursue people who are flagrantly abusing the law.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Grealish.
Taoiseach, there was a case there recently, a number of years ago in Galway, where they were able to use the CCTV and the Catwoman culprit, he was brought to court, but he was only fined €200. Like, he was back out. I had seen him again a couple of days later, illegal dumping. Taoiseach, strong legislation has to be brought in, and I firmly believe the only way that you're going to hurt these individuals and to get them to stop is to bring in legislation, to strengthen the legislation, and to seize the vehicle there and then. If you can take the vehicle off them, that if they're observed illegal dumping and it's proven that they're illegal dumping, seize the vehicle, because that's the only way you're going to stop them. Them pictures I sent into your office, Taoiseach, they're only less than 1 kilometre on the outskirts of Galway City. It is absolutely appalling what is happening. And this is not just about Galway, this is about around the country. If we don't stop this illegal dumping, our countryside is going to be destroyed, including our environment. So, Taoiseach, I'd ask that you strengthen the legislation, that you bring in stronger legislation and hit them where it hurts. And I believe if you do, take the van, if the vehicle is seized there, give the local authorities the resources to do that and the Garda Síochána, and hit them where it hurts, take the vehicle off them and let them pay a substantial fine before they get the vehicle back again.
Thank you, Deputy Grealish. Taoiseach, to conclude.
Yeah, I agree with the Deputy in terms of the appalling impact that illegal dumping has on our community, on our landscape, and on the environment, and it needs to be treated dealt with in an uncompromising way. But the laws are strong enough in that area. For example, under current waste legislation, vehicles involved in the carrying out of suspected unlawful waste activity can be seized. They can be seized, and if successfully prosecuted, such vehicles can be disposed of as the competent authority sees fit. But again, I will ask the Minister for responsible, Eamon Ryan, to look at this. I've asked him already this morning, but also to see how the powers and capacity of the local authorities can be strengthened and legally make sure there's no legal doubt about the utilisation of CCTV in terms of gathering evidence to investigate, detect illegal dumping and to prosecute those responsible for illegal dumping, because no one in society wants to condone that or facilitate their evasion of prosecution on technical grounds.
Thank you, Taoiseach. That concludes Leaders' Questions. We move straight away.